Shalom, everyone. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those loving it eat its fruit. So that last part, that's Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. Those loving it eat its fruit. Those who love to use their tongue in a particular manner are going to eat the fruit that comes from that, and that is what that means. Now, Yahushua says in the Gospels, when he is challenged on the notion of why did he not wash his hands before eating, his reply is, it is not that which goes into a man's mouth that defileth him, but that which comes out of a man's mouth which defileth him. Now this subject of the tongue, the title of this video, Death and Life are in the Power of the Tongue. This is a very important matter that many people can easily slip into unrighteous speech. And this is something that we have to guard all the time, literally every day, because it's like we are emotional beings. And there are many things in this wicked world that can prompt us and provoke us into unrighteous speech. James chapter 3, verses 6 through 9. And the tongue is a fire, the world of unrighteousness. Among our members, the tongue is set, the one defiling the entire body, and setting on fire the wheel of life. And it is set on fire by Gehinnom. Now, Gehinnom in most English translations is translated as hell. Verse 7. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea, is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man is able to tame the tongue. It is unruly, evil, filled with deadly poison. With it we bless our Elohim and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of Elohim. Now I consider those to be very powerful verses considering this subject right here. It reads, but no man is able to tame the tongue. That is how important this matter is, because as we move on here, I'm going to read a little bit from Matthew chapter 12 about how we are going to be judged on this matter, coming out of Yahushua's words himself. Now on this note real quick, I use the name Yahushua for the Messiah, the Son, the Savior, who most people refer to as Jesus, and for the Father, I use the name Yahuwah, and I believe that these are the true and correct names of the Father and Son. And in every video that I make, I include in the description box below what I consider to be the quintessential teachings on the Father's name and the Son's name. Now, the teaching on the Father's name is entitled Restoring the Creator's Name, Hashem Revealed, by the channel Messenger of the Name. It is an hour and 10 minutes long. And the teaching on the Son's name, on the name of Yahushua, is entitled What is His Son's Name? Also by Messenger of the Name. It is 1 hour and 48 minutes long. Both of these teachings on this subject are well worth the time. They will be in the description box below of this video, as well as every other video that I make. Okay, so on this subject of no man being able to tame the tongue, it being unruly, evil, and filled with deadly poison, as what is written in James chapter 3. Now, I would consider the things that most people can fall into error on, the most common things would be slandering, gossip, lying, exaggerating, basically being just another form of lying, cursing, using foul language, boasting, complaining, and of course blaspheming. So I want to read a verse here from Proverbs which really brings out something regarding boasting. This is Proverbs chapter 27, verse 2. Let another man praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips. Okay? So that's basically saying you don't need to boast. Let somebody else do it for you. Okay. Leviticus chapter 19, verses 16 and 17. Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuwah. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your neighbor for certain and bear no sin because of him. Okay, so what it's doing, it's establishing a difference here between slandering and gossip and offering reproof on a matter. And this is going to be a segue into something here in just a moment. So on that note, real quick, I want to read from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. And in some English versions, the word for reprove is to expose. Okay, so on that note, now I made a video about 2.5 months ago about the channel Global Witness. Okay, and there were a lot of his followers that came on into the comment section and were saying that I was judging and that this was gossip, what I was engaged in, and so forth. And I just want to point out the difference between judging and gossip and offering proper reproof on a matter. Okay, Ezekiel chapter 33 tells us that when Yahuwah sets a watchman on the wall, the job of that watchman is to warn the people when he sees the sword coming to the land, or in essence, when there is seen danger, okay, that is coming. Okay, so and if he is appointed to this task and he does not properly warn, okay, and those that are taken by the sword, then their blood is on him. Okay, but if he gives proper warning and they do not heed his warning, then their blood is on them. Okay, so that's essentially, what I was doing by making this video on Global Witness, because as I listened to many hours of this man, there was no doubt whatsoever that this man is a false prophet. He is a false teacher. His teachings do not jive with the word whatsoever, and he is selling the notion that the word cannot be trusted because it's been tampered with so much. However, our Father, Yahuwah, the Creator, the Almighty, can preserve His word. There's a prophecy that I've referred to many times. It's in Enoch chapter 104. And regarding the preservation of His word. Okay, so of course the enemy is going to try to tamper with the truth in any way, shape, and form. Okay, but it has not been tampered with to the point that it is unreliable. Okay, there might be a few minor things here and there, but His word has been preserved, and we can indeed trust it. Okay, so as I made this video, I am offering reproof, but mainly it's a warning. Okay, that if you follow this man's teachings, that you are being led down the wide path of destruction. Okay, that's what that is. It's not gossip. It's not judging. It is offering warning. Now, if I'm wrong on that matter, then yes, I would be slandering. Okay, however, I took the time and did my homework and listened to many hours of this man, and there's no doubt whatsoever that he is engaged in false teaching and he is a false prophet. Okay, and that he is leading many astray. So what I was doing by making that video is not gossiping, it is not slandering, it is not slamming him or bashing for no apparent reason, okay? It is offering warning and to mitigate the effects of those being led astray by false teaching, whether it be this or whether it be anything else. It's kind of like if I knew a woman, okay, and she was involved with someone who I knew to be a serial rapist, say. Now, if there was something that I could have done to intercede, to intervene, to give her proper warning that who you're involved with could lead to some very serious problems, if I failed to do so, okay, and I could have done something, okay, I'm at fault for that, okay? And that's the way I see this Global Witness channel. Now, I don't want to get too far off on this. I just want to point out that there is a difference, okay, between unrighteous gossip and unrighteous slandering and properly giving warning on a matter, okay? Because apparently a lot of his followers do not have the discernment to know the difference, or they are just simply led by his mind control techniques to go and to attack. Okay, so that's all I want to say on that. Well, one more thing on that matter, using the example of, if I knew a woman who was involved with a serial rapist and I failed to do anything, I failed to speak up on the matter. Well, I see that as justifying the wicked. So Proverbs 17:15 reads, "He that justifies the wicked and he that condemns the just, even they both are an abomination to Yahuwah." Okay, so if I failed to take action when I could to help on that matter, then that is in essence justifying the wicked. Okay, and I'm just as guilty. So that is the way I see it with this Global Witness channel. So anyway, That's all on that matter. Matthew chapter 12, verses 36 and 37. Yahushua says, "And I say to you that for every idle word men speak, they shall give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be declared righteous, and by your words you shall be declared unrighteous." Okay, that is a big deal right there, because just as it reads in James, our tongue is unruly, evil, and filled with deadly poison. Therefore, it is up to us to realize this matter and to do our best to tame that, because the spirit wars against the flesh and the flesh wars against the spirit. It is in our flesh, it is in our emotional nature to lash out with our tongues when we get provoked or when we are prompted in any way. And on that note, this is a big reason why I was led to make this video, because where I work, I manage a third shift stock crew at a grocery store here in the town that I live in. And there are a lot of situations where I feel provoked into complaining, but also reviling others that I work with when I see or when I believe that they are not applying themselves in the proper manner and so forth. It is easy to fall into these errors of complaining and reviling. And these are big ways in which we must learn to gain control of our tongue and to realize that these are the cares of this world. And as I'm going to read from Mark chapter 4 a little bit later, that the cares of this world can come in and choke the word, okay? And that leads to bearing no fruit, okay? Okay, now, these are words that everybody studying the word, everybody who's a believer should always remember. This is Luke chapter 13, verses 23 and 24. I've always remembered these verses right here because this is a very important matter. Okay, and someone said to him, "Master, are there few being saved?" And he said to them, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate, because many, I say to you, shall seek to enter in and shall not be able." Okay, the word strive, when he says strive to enter through the narrow gate, the Greek word associated with strive is Strong's Concordance 75 in the Greek and is agonizomai. And the definition of agonizomai is to struggle fervently. Okay, so when he says strive to enter through the narrow gate, there is work that we must do to master the desires of our flesh. And one of the desires of our flesh is to lash out with our tongue and to engage in all these aforementioned things. I mean, it is much easier to slip with the tongue than probably any other manner, that would be considered sin. So, also on this note, 1 John chapter 2, verse 3. "And by this we know that we know him if we guard his commands." Okay, so he is essentially telling us in Matthew chapter 12, verses 36 and 37, if you want to be with me, if you want to be in this kingdom, if you want to be accepted, okay, then your speech and your words must be declared righteous by me, okay? So if we are to guard his commands, and it says by this we know him that we guard his commands, then we have to guard our tongue. And that is not something that's easy to do. I cannot stress this enough. This is not something that's easy to do in this world. I have been entirely guilty of slipping with my tongue over and over again in this life. And it is now that I really feel convicted on this matter, because it's almost like as we are out there in the world, as we are out there in the belly of the beast, we kind of forget these things. And it just comes naturally to begin to complain or to begin to talk about others in a way which he would say is unrighteous. Okay. Revelation chapter 14, verses 4 and 5. "They are those not defiled with women." Now, let me say real quick. This is in reference to the 144,000. The 12,000 that are sealed in their foreheads by each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? Let me start over. "They are those not defiled with women, for they are virgins. They are those following the Lamb whithersoever he goes. They were redeemed from among men, being firstfruits to Elohim and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Elohim." That was verse 5. "In their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Elohim." Now there are a few characteristics of the 144,000 that is discussed in Revelation chapter 14 and in Revelation chapter 7. Okay, now one of those things is, in their mouth was found no falsehood. Okay, they are not liars. They do not lie. They do not deceive. Okay, and okay, so that is the fruits of their mouth. Okay, so their words would be declared righteous in this way because in their mouth was found no falsehood. That is a specific characteristic given of the 144,000 that is worth taking note of and meditating on. Also, it says, they are those following the Lamb whithersoever he goes. So they are following him by, one of the things that they are doing by following him is to guard their tongue properly. And they're making every effort to crucify their flesh and to not fall into the traps that are so easy to fall into of complaining and gossip and these sorts of things. Okay, and when it reads, they are those not defiled with women, for they are virgins. Now, I believe that means that they are not defiled with false doctrine that these false churches may teach, because churches are referred to as women. All right? Now, here's a particular verse that has really convicted me, and this is Philippians chapter 2, verses 14 and 15. And this is specifically in relation to complaining. Okay, it reads, "Do all matters without grumblings and disputing, in order that you are blameless and faultless, children of Elohim without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world." Okay, so grumblings and disputings would also be translated as complaining, whining and complaining and so forth. But then it reads, "Do this in order that you be blameless and faultless." Okay, so this is an important matter. This is also discussed in the Torah, where the Hebrews they have been led out of Egypt, but circumstances keep presenting themselves to them in which they're like, well, we need this, we need that. What about this? Why don't we go back to Egypt and so forth? They are always complaining, and then it will read, "And Yahuwah was wroth with them for this matter." Okay, so it's giving these examples there in the Torah as well, that grumbling and complaining and so forth is not something that he looks favorably upon at all. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. "Do you not know that the unrighteous shall not inherit the reign of Elohim? Do not be deceived. Neither those who whore, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor greedy of gain, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers shall inherit the reign of Elohim." 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. Now, the only reason I bring that out is because what is included in there is those that are reviling are considered the unrighteous, who shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. Okay, these are words to meditate on and to remember. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier about Mark chapter 4, now this is the parable in the Gospel of Mark regarding the sower. Okay, so seed is sown, some of it grows to fruition, and this is considered the good seed, but most of the seed, falls on rocky ground or falls on thorns, and it gets choked out. In Mark chapter 4, verse 19, it reads, "And the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful." Okay, so, a person listening to this might consider how the cares of this world might prompt them, to speak unrighteously about things and to, do anything for that matter that is not in accordance with the word. Okay, so in my case, it would be, well, I'm working at a grocery store, and one of the things that we have to do is we have to do what we call blocking. Okay, so that would be fronting all the product up and try to get the labels out and try to basically make it look really pretty and really presentable and so forth. And it's all about appearance. And, and I will often find myself, getting quite irritated with those who I feel are not blocking as well as they could, and therefore it's not as pretty as it could be because I have to hear it from my store manager and so forth. Well, ultimately, what that comes down to is that is the cares of this world, okay? Because there are probably more than half the people in this world, okay, do not have enough to eat. And if they came into the grocery store where I work, they'd just be amazed at the amount of food that we have. And they wouldn't care one bit about how pretty it looks. You know, they'd just be happy to be able to eat. And here we are taking all this time and all this effort to make it look pretty, to beautify the store all the time. Now, I'm not saying that it is not important to do your best at the job that you do. That is certainly important, okay? But this ultimately, to be upset over it and to fall into these traps of complaining about these matters is the cares of this world. So think about how these things and how this Mark chapter 4, verse 19 might apply in your life in some way. Okay, now I just want to bring out a few more verses regarding the importance of our words and of our tongue. Okay, Proverbs chapter 20, verses 19 and 20. He who goes about as a slanderer reveals secrets. Therefore do not associate with him who speaks smoothly with his lips. Whoever curses his father or his mother, his lamp is put out in deep darkness. Wow. I mean, I'm telling you what. There are a lot of people out there who have mothers and fathers that are not very kind and may not even love them. But these are our commands. To honor thy mother and father, which is in the Ten Commandments, and then reiterated here in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 23. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue guards his life from distresses. I mean, wow. You know, that's really to the point right there. It is as clear as can be. There's no way to translate that any other way than what it reads. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit now from books entitled The Wisdom of Solomon, or in the Hebrew, Chokmah Shaloma, and also from a book entitled Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, which is different from the book that is in the Standard Canon, Ecclesiastes. Okay, now Sirach and the Wisdom of Solomon they're like Proverbs, the book of Proverbs in many ways, but I consider the book of Sirach especially to be stronger meat. I mean, it may be my favorite book in the entire Word. Okay, so I'm going to be reading Wisdom of Solomon and Sirach from the Sefer. Okay, now the Sefer contains all 66 books of Standard Canon, but also 22 books, 22 extra biblical books, and these are two of those books that are in the Sefer. Okay, from Chokmah Shalomo, the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. For wisdom is a loving ruach, and will not acquit a blasphemer of his words. For Elohim is witness of his mind, and a true beholder of his heart, and a hearer of his tongue. Okay, so things that we say, you know, again, going back to Matthew chapter 12, where Yahushua is saying, every idle word we're going to be accountable for. Okay, and I cannot tell you how many unrighteous idle words I have spoken in my life, but they have been too many. But now, knowing the Word, you know, I hope and I pray that I can correct these matters, and I just hope and I pray that others out there will consider these matters very seriously, because it's so easy to slip with our tongue. Also from the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 11. Therefore beware of murmuring, which is unprofitable, and refrain your tongue from backbiting. For there is no word so secret that shall go for naught, and the mouth that belies slays the soul. Okay? Now here is a really good verse from the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, regarding gossip in particular. And this is a verse that has kind of always stuck with me because I just like the way it is worded. Sirach chapter 19, verse 10. If you have heard a word, let it die with you, and be bold. It will not burst you. Okay, so think about that for a second. Someone might come to you and they say, hey, did you hear that so-and-so did this? Did you hear that so-and-so did this together? Did you hear that so-and-so messed up in this way and so forth? And you're like, oh, wow, what is that? Well, that's juicy gossip. And what do you want to do? You want to go tell somebody about that. You want to go share that. You're like, hey, guess what? You know, and it's fun to do, but it's like eating junk food. It might be attractive, but the more you do it, I mean, if you are convicted of these matters, you're going to feel you're not going to feel very good in your heart and in your soul. Okay, so just think about that. It says, if you have heard a word, let it die with you. Be bold, it will not burst you. So as much as you want to share things, if it's not necessary, don't do it. It will not burst you. It will not hurt you. Okay, and ultimately it will be for the better. Okay? So, wow, what was I going to say there? No, it kind of escaped me. So if it comes back to me, I'll bring it back in a minute. Sirach chapter 20, verse 18. To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip with the tongue. So the fall of the wicked shall come speedily. So it's telling us here, slipping with the tongue, I mean, that is worse than slipping upon pavement, which can hurt your body, greatly. Okay? Now, there are many, many verses in the book of Sirach regarding this subject, so I just suggest you read it. I'm just bringing out a few here. Sirach chapter 28, verses 17 and 18. The stroke of the whip makes marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaks bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as have fallen by the tongue. Wow. Okay, last verse I want to bring out. Sirach chapter 18, verse 20. It reads, before judgment, examine yourself, and in the day of visitation, you shall find mercy. Okay, so this would be a matter in which everyone really needs to examine themselves about their language, about how they might be speaking in a manner that Yahushua himself, the Messiah, okay, the Savior, would deem unrighteous language, unrighteous speech. Okay, this is one of those matters that I know that I myself need to always guard, because it is so easy. I cannot emphasize enough. It is so easy to fall into speaking things that are unrighteous. So, thanks for listening.